David, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back into the game in T-Town.
Hey, Ryan, man, I'm doing well. How about you?
Good. Just ready to talk a little quarterback with you a little bit here for a few minutes. Pick your brain for a few minutes.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's do it. It's always a great weekend down in Thibodaux, Louisiana.
Yeah, and let's talk about it. You know, we were talking about it earlier with Mike Detillier from a media perspective, but as far as going a little hands-on with what your role is, tell us what your role is in this Manning Passing Academy.
Yeah, so so the way they set up the camp, I think this weekend they had 42 college quarterbacks that were instructors, and then the rest of the staff, 60 members or so, would be high school football coaches from around the country, or small college coaches. I think D2, D3 type schools, and then guys like myself. And so it's really a unique staff and kind of a neat network of people, and very interesting from top to bottom. So I'm kind of lucky enough to be one of the guys that gets to work out the college quarterbacks with Eli and Peyton, and so that's always cool, and was able to speak to the campers about arm care and mechanics and all that stuff. So it's just an amazing weekend for our group, and then obviously it's an amazing weekend for probably everybody there, whether you're a camper and you have that experience, or for a college quarterback and you're an instructor. I think that's a pretty darn unique experience. And then you got the other coaching staff that's there. I think everybody there feels like they're kind of lucky to be there.
David, when you talk about having a chance just to even sit in a room to more or less be coached by one of these guys, to be able to get some tips from guys like Eli and Peyton and Archie and all the others, I mean, there's a lot of value. That's something that even if you put a price tag on, I'm not sure exactly what it would be, but that's huge for college quarterbacks.
I think you're right. I mean, not only from a football standpoint, you get to see how these guys work. You get to see how these guys have great balance in their life. You get to see how they're humble people, how they legitimately want to coach every kid at the camp, and there's 1,200 campers. They literally go out of their way to go from group to group, session to session, kid to kid. They don't just shake their hand. They run at them and swipe at them and bat down balls and run routes for them and tackle them. I mean, this is a special family. It's a unique family. And it's like you said, I've talked to a number of college quarterbacks that are just like, I mean, that was one of the most memorable weekends of my life, and I think it is.
When you look at Jalen Hurts being able to select it as one of the 41 quarterbacks that are down at the college side of things and being one of the counselors, you look at Jalen Hurts, certainly 14-1 as a starter, but probably does a lot of self-critique himself. Where do you think you could see him the biggest room for growth?
Man, I tell you, I was able to spend a good bit of time with him. Coached him a good bit on the field during 2 or 3 sessions, and then I was able to play against him head to head, 7-on-7 with our team, our camper team.
Did you win that, David?
Yeah, he beat me. He beat us. He got us. He kind of let me hear it, But no, it was fun. So I kind of got to be around him a lot and was very, very impressed. On the field, though, geez Louise. I mean, if you talk to anybody at that camp, whether it be a media guy, NFL Network or ESPN, or a guy like me that kind of looks at quarterbacks all day, every day, he was in this conversation of most impressive of the whole, of the whole bunch. Not necessarily number one on the list, but in the top 3 or 4. And so, I mean, and I felt the same way. I was like, my goodness, I just didn't know he looked very fluid. He looked very strong. He looked very comfortable, and he stood out. So, I mean, I thought he looked great.
Does it look like in your appearance that Brian Dable has tweaked some of the mechanics and some of the things that maybe has allowed him to look this comfortable?
I mean, I think so. I think we talked a while back that, there's natural progressions that happen with age, with development. And so I think that's part of it. But, yeah, I mean, he mentioned over and over again how he just loves what they're doing. His feet look fantastic. you got a couple guys down there, Dan Werner, as well as Chris Wanke, who's also, I think, giving their 2 cents and coaching them up. So, I mean, is there a better situation to be coached up for a young quarterback in the country? I doubt it. You got three guys that have done it at all different types of level and kind of with different experiences to pull on. So he's definitely grown. And, I talked specifically about the deep ball with him, and how he's been working on it and kind of the rhythm of it and the timing of it and the height of the ball and all that. And so, anything that he felt like he needed to, spend a little time on, I think he's doing that and more.
Is it fair to say that you're never going to live and die by the deep ball? Because I know his percentage was not great, but I don't think a lot of quarterbacks' deep ball is sometimes there. Is it fair to say that you're not going to live and die by the deep ball?
Oh yeah, I think that's fair to say. At the same time, I think you can always get better at it, and there is an art to it. So I think it's part of the repertoire, and you want to be as good as you can at it and understand the timing of it as much as you can. So I think he's his mind's in the right spot there.
David, the last time you and I talked, I think it was the 21st day of March, we featured you here on the program. That was prior to spring practice. We talked about what Jalen would like to be able to accomplish through 15 practices. He showed progression. Let me ask you also about the quarterback that's been a lot of buzz here locally with Tua Tagovailoa. What do you see in this young man?
I hadn't had a ton of time to study him. I know he has a strong arm, and I know he had a good spring, and I know he's a guy that a lot of people, are excited about. So I hadn't studied his spring game or anything. So it's probably I may not be the best guy to answer that.
David, when you look at quarterback development, when you look at this skill set here in Tuscaloosa, the luxury of having 6 running backs that could probably play at a lot of different stops around the SEC, you look at the wide receivers. I mean, these weapons in Tuscaloosa, it may be an offensive record showcasing year. If Jalen can get there and continue to progress, as you said, and many others have been able to say they had a great showing there at Manning Passing Academy. You look at the weapons in Tuscaloosa with wide receivers, Calvin Ridley, Robert Foster, Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, and you could go on and on and on. Then you got 6 quality backs. The offensive line should be better. This offense can be dynamic in T-Town.
I think you're right. I think that just seeing all the talent, knowing the staff is probably in a better situation now than it was from top to bottom on offense. I mean, you add 3 guys that I mentioned earlier. That's a very unique. Perspective I think that they have, and a very unique experience for anybody who's going to get coached up by Werner, by Dable, by Wanke. So in just the quarterback room alone, I think it's just going to be hard to be in a better position to learn than what they have there. And then you mentioned, the offensive line, the skill positions, running back and receiver. Yeah, they're going to be loaded. So the challenge is staying healthy and putting it all together.
Yeah, and looking at this offense, it should be a nightmare for opposing defensive coordinators when you look at the diversity of what this is going to be. I mean, they could beat you running the football. They can beat you throwing the football. Jalen, the mobility that he's able to show. I mean, it's so many different ways you line up. And I remember a quote that A.J. kept saying over and over and over during his time here in Tuscaloosa. Take what the defense will give you. Take what the defense will give you. If he said it one time, he said it 100 times. And it's so true. Take what they'll give you.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's how you win. That's how you win. You don't try to get cute. You don't try to do too much. You take what's there. Every play has a purpose, and you try to design it to beat a defense. And so I think you're right. It sounds very simple, but it takes a lot of discipline.
You take a minute and talk about David Cutcliffe and what he's meant to you as far as just grooming you and helping you get to where you're at currently.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Coach Cut was a guy that I really learned the depths of the position from Coach Cut. I was lucky. when I was at Ole Miss, I was my true freshman year. My offensive coordinator was Noel Mazzoni. He's now at Texas A&M. Close buddy and a guy I talked to a lot. Coach Cutt obviously came in the following year and brought in a guy named Kurt Roper, who's now the OC at South Carolina. A guy I talked to a lot as well. And but I mean, it all kind of starts with Coach Cutt when I opened my eyes to just how much depth this position has. If you want to play it well, if you want to learn it, and if you want to teach it. So there's no question a big part of our foundation comes from the education that I received from him and those other two, as well as kind of the way he piqued my interest and kind of piqued my intrigue as to, wow, there's just a lot more than here I was, 18, 19-year-old kid or whatever, and played it for 19 years, and then, you feel like you kind of know a lot, and then here comes a guy, and you feel like, wow, I don't even know if I've began to learn yet. So those light bulb moments where you learn something that you hadn't yet heard, but it makes so much sense. And I can remember multiple, dozens of times when that happened. And really, that's kind of what we're trying to give to these kids now, is give them this information that just makes sense, And so when you can learn like that and break down the position, it's exciting. So it's just kind of what we're trying to duplicate here.
How much does the run-pass option affect what you guys do there and the style of play that we're going offensively in the college game?
Well, I think you got to know how to teach it. You got to know that it's a big part of the game, and more as we get further along into this thing, you got to learn. You got to know how to talk through it and know how to describe it to kids that that may be familiar or may not be familiar with it, because they're going to run across it sooner or later. You talk to college kids across the country, and so many of them now are kind of going to that, or at least a big part of their offense is RPO. So it's interesting. It creates a lot of headaches for defenses.
Do you feel like this is a cycle that will circle back, or do you feel like this is the trend going forward?
Well, I mean, you think about offensively, what are you trying to do? You're trying to spread the field. You're trying to create situations to put the defense in a tough spot, and where to make your decision easier. And so I don't think it's going to be I don't think it's just a small trend. I do think it's a wrinkle that is here to stay, because it's just hard to guard.
David, do you expect the SEC play at quarterback to be a lot more improved? I know that the league took a lot of hits last year, people talking about the league down, but 11 out of the 14 quarterbacks return. You had a chance to see a lot of those down at the Manning Passing Academy. Yeah. Seems like this league offensively may take a swing back on the positive side.
I think so. Young SEC quarterback's going to be young next year, but, geez Louise, as talented as anybody you got. We already talked about Jalen Hurts, SEC Player of the Year, coming back. Appears to be just better and better. Going to take a step in every positive direction you could take one. I would imagine that would occur. Then you got guys like Shea Patterson, who's just so talented. He was down there, really looked sharp to me. A dynamic player. If he can stay within that offense, I don't know that too many defenses are going to be able to stop him. A young guy. Nick Fitzgerald at Mississippi State. Just fits in perfect with what they're doing down there. Really an athletic guy who can throw it as well. Maybe not as pure as some of the other guys throwing it, but he can get it done, and he has a big arm, and he's very athletic, very big. You got Allen back at Arkansas. He's kind of the vet of the bunch, and he was down there. Super impressed with him. Reminds you a lot of his brother. Just the accurate, tough anticipator that loves to compete. And then you got Easton at Georgia, kid like Jake Fromm coming in, who's going to push him a little bit. It's going to be a very, very talented young bunch. But if they put it together, and who knows when it will happen, when the light will go on for some of those guys. But it could be this year, and it could be one of the better bunches.
David Morse, the CEO of QBCountry.com. QBCountry.com, a lot of areas throughout Mobile, Nashville, Jackson, Mississippi, Birmingham, Alabama, Memphis, Tennessee, Charlotte, North Carolina, New Orleans, Atlanta, Orlando, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. QBCountry.com is the website. David, thanks for allowing us to pick your brain for a few minutes and talk a little quarterback play. We appreciate the conversation.
Hey, Ryan, thank you so much for having me on and for plugging QB Country. We're excited about the direction we're heading in, and we love to share our story. So we appreciate you.
Not too bad when you talk about national titles when you can do 3 out of the last 6. That's a pretty good.
We're excited. You know, hey, I'll be the first to tell you we're a very small fraction of of that deal. I think the big majority of that has to do with what's going on at Nick Saban in Alabama. But it is an interesting stat. That's just one of the cool things we got going on. We've had 80 kids sign scholarships the last 4 years. We had 5 guys drafted in the last 5 drafts. So we're excited, man. We know our role. We're happy to be a small part of the puzzle.